Good morning. We're going to get this morning's program started. We've got a great kickoff session, so I want to have maximum amount of time for today's kickoff. My name is Gregg, Mindt, Executive Director of Northwest Environmental Business Council, and I'm really pleased that you're here. And I know if you're in the lobby area, please come on in. We've got lots of space. This is our sixth annual Infrastructure Summit. This has really been a great partnership with Business Oregon, and I can't thank them enough for their collaboration in this event and continuing to try to find ways to make it better and really meet the needs of the state, the local communities, and other individuals that have an interest and a passion for infrastructure. We have a full day, so I'm going to keep my comments very brief, but we're going to just jump right in. I want to introduce Sophorn Cheang. She's the director at Business Oregon, and she currently serves as the director. And prior to joining Business Oregon, she served as the director of Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Oregon Governor Kate Brown. In this role, she oversaw the development of state business policies to eliminate bias and barriers and provide economic opportunities for all Oregon businesses through equity practices in state procurement and community economic development. So with that, I know there's a lot bigger bio, but I'm going to introduce it to you, and we're going to kick off this day. So thank you.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I don't really think that need to read all my bio. I was told by a lot of people that if you Google my name, there's a lot of things come up. So I don't know what I have agreed on a few years, maybe like before the pandemic. I was interviewed by the Oregon State University. So then I didn't realize that because they're saying that it's part of the Oregon archive, but then it's also on Google. Then it's like everybody know how long I've been here, when I was born, my date of birth. So you got there. Well, before I get started, Governor Tina Kotek wished that she could be here with us. Since she could not be here, she would like to send her remarks and also the message that through the video. So I would like to invite you to also just look at the video briefly before I share a few words.
Hi, Governor Kotek here. Welcome to the 2024 Oregon Infrastructure Summit. Thanks to record levels of federal investment in broadband, clean energy, and transportation, and my focus on building affordable housing, we are facing a new and exciting future when it comes to infrastructure in our state. To date, Oregon has been awarded more than $7.3 billion through the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. This historic funding will bring high-speed internet to all corners of our state, replace critical infrastructure like the Interstate Bridge, and propel Oregon towards a clean energy economy. We're not done. I fully expect that continued efforts at the federal, state, and local level, along with those of our tribal and private sector partners, will build on our success and bring in more than $10 billion within the next 2 years. Funding is only the beginning. As you all know, the hard work is in the implementation. It will take creative solutions at all levels of government to deliver results. Just know that every project you finish on time and under budget builds public trust and reinforces the value of the infrastructure we all need to make sure Oregon is successful in the future. Investment on this scale also provides a generational opportunity to lift up Oregon workers and support local companies. At the end of the day, the jobs created through these dollars matters just as much as the projects themselves. And federal funds are only part of the story. That is why I work to secure significant state funding for housing, semiconductors, and childcare infrastructure during the last legislative session. I know that there's more work to be done. In the 2025 session, we must turn our attention towards a funding shortfall at the Oregon Department of Transportation and continue investing in infrastructure that supports housing development. So let's keep going. Thank you all for your hard work and commitment to building a better, stronger Oregon.
Well, I think that we can keep going. Good morning, everybody. And I just want to say welcome. Welcome to the 6th Annual Oregon Infrastructure Summit. Gregg said it very well. All of this would not be possible without all the partnership and your participation. Thank you for those of you who are coming back, for those of you who knew. So I'm just wondering, who actually knew this year to the summit? Oh, including our keynote speaker, of course, right? So there's about half of the group here. So I'm glad to see you all here. I'm glad that you took the time. I know that many of you travel across Oregon to be here with us. So on behalf of the state of Oregon, Business Oregon, and of course the Northwest Environmental Business Council, who are presenting this year's summit, thank you again for taking the time. I know that traveling and also being here for 2 days at the summit, it takes a lot of the commitment and the time away to be here. And also wanted to also give a shout out and thank you to our sponsors, partners, panelists, and also the many people who were so on the planning committee to make this summit possible. Could you join me in thanks our planning committee? So we are here today, and I know that many of you, looking forward to be here at the summit, because we know that infrastructure is an essential part of the foundation of our communities and vital for economic development growth in Oregon. Our everyday lives are impacted by efficient and effective infrastructure, how we get to and from work, school, and home, how we access resources to do our jobs and contribute to our communities, how our children learn and grow, how we maintain safety and where we work, live, and where we end our days at our home with the amenities and utilities that make our lives easier. Now, we all know that every year conversation is all different. And you're looking forward to say, what's next? What's everybody bring to the table? Infrastructure is constantly evolving with the ever-changing needs of our town, cities, and communities. Everyone from our smallest rural communities to our largest cities have infrastructure needs that are affecting us, affecting you, your family, and your community. This year, we received an update, a report card from the Oregon Infrastructures. I know you're looking forward to that during the lunchtime. So I hope that you will gain value from the conversation from our speaker today on the updates that come from the report, and that it will create more important and engaging discussions here that you can take with you and share with your communities. Take preemptive actions for our infrastructure. We maintain the safety and vibrancy for our great state. By being here, I know that you share that passion and commitment. Thank you for being here, ready to learn and also to take action for our communities and for our state. And most importantly, thank you for your partnership and all you do in serving our communities across Oregon. I hope these summits provide an opportunity to share best practices, to share the latest on state and federal programs, and to learn an opportunity to provide an opportunity to collaborate with new people, with your colleagues who's all been working with, and most importantly, ensuring Oregon communities, large and small, can prosper. You heard Governor Kotek mention there's a lot of money. There's a lot of federal monies coming in. There's a lot of resources available. I hope that you will take an opportunity to being creative, to also bringing ideas to the table. Speaking about creative and ideas, I know that, and then also things are changing. To kick off this year's summit, we have an important and special guest today. And I know that this is a very special topic. It's something that emerging is coming through our life and our everyday lives. And us in economic development, in a business development, and community development work, we always wondering, it's like, what's coming up? So what could we do? How can we leverage those? So we're very fortunate and very honored to have someone very special and very knowledgeable. It's Michael Cruz, Director of Data and Artificial Intelligence with Microsoft. Michael has over 30 years of experience integrating technology across various businesses, including over a decade as an enterprise technology architect in Washington state local government, and 12 years at Microsoft as a data and AI specialist, collaborating with governments nationwide. His recent work focusing on aiding organizations in modernizing their data estate and positioning them for the upcoming waves of AI advancement. And I know that talking to Michael, he's actually not just only working with the state of Washington, he's been working with us. He is in the state of Oregon and many of the departments. So I'm looking forward to also hearing what he can share, and I hope that we learn from his keynotes today. Please join me and welcome Michael.
Ooh. Anybody ever walk up the stairs and say, yeah, maybe pickleball the other day was not a great idea? Yeah, it's easy. Low impact, they said. Oh, thank you so much for that introduction and for those remarks. And thanks so much for the governor for also providing some context. I love talking in these types of venues because it allows me to take 30 years. I can't believe that. That's too many in my mind. To take the experience that I've had and share those experiences as well as what your peers in other states and across the nation have been doing. And I'm so excited to get into that. But before I do, thank you so much again to all the planners, to Gregg and team, Sophorn, for providing that context. Yeah, I am Michael Cruz. I am the Director of Data and AI, as it says there. If you went to the website to register, that don't be fooled, that was me 25 pounds ago. My wife says, why did you use that picture? You know, it's been some time. You know, people say 14 years in AI, data and AI. AI hasn't been around that long, right? We'll get into that too, but it's an exciting time. Data is so powerful, and I'm so excited to share these stories. I do want to also say I switch quite a bit between hats because I once supported a public works department at my county. Anybody ever heard of Snohomish County in Everett, Washington? Okay. Whoa, I heard a woo. It's where Boeing, you know, is planted for their it used to be 747 plants. I've got just so many roots in the Northwest. I'm building more further down in Portland and Salem. But yeah, I grew up basically supporting my public works department, as well as the law enforcement, health and human services. So those 30 years in government and technology, that's basically been my life. Sorry, my 3 adult children might say, yeah, they're tired of hearing about all these things, but it's the dinner table, right? It's what we talk about. It's important to me. It's important to my community. It's important to me as a resident, right? To make this right. I think there's an opportunity to always improve government, and no better time than now with AI. So raise your hands. Anybody used any form of AI ever? Okay, I figured it'd be everybody's hands, because even if you just used Waze or Google Maps to get here today, right, there's AI. If you've ever shopped on Amazon.com, right, and got recommendations of, hey, other people like this, right, that's AI. And so let me just see if this works. It's basically been around for quite a while. It used to be called things like machine learning, data science, other things. I want to walk us through a bit of a journey so that when we get to where we are today, we can know where we came from and apply this stuff correctly, okay? So if you hear terms like machine learning, NLP, there's so many acronyms, it's acronym soup, that you know, just know that this is stuff that is going to be very helpful to you. And in fact, if we think about some of that traditional, I can't believe we're saying traditional AI now, right? Because it's so new. But yeah, traditional AI has been things like, you know, using computers to see what's out there, to render, like, hey, is that a wolf or is that an animal on a trail? In this case, in Washington State, one of the things that they're doing is using traditional AI to detect eelgrass versus, I believe it's japonica, like certain species of kelp and vegetation inside of the bays means that it's healthy. And it used to take them, you know, hours and hours of pouring through video. And I'm sure they got, some of the folks to, press a button every time they see the presence of something, right? It's similar to another use case in California where, they're counting salmon, trout, in rivers and so on, right? Instead, what we helped them do was create an AI, traditional AI model to detect it. So now they take that, 400, I think it's like, well, they might even put it there, hours, 350 hours of underwater video, just run it through and be able to process that, in a moment's time and focus on the better efforts for that. And this is traditional AI, right? This is stuff that we've done over the last, 10 years, right? This is the kind of stuff that used to be science fiction, right? But we're actually finding out that it's possible. It used to be cost prohibitive. I'll also put that out there, right? This stuff, you'd have to have a data scientist. You'd have to have someone who knew what they were doing with this stuff in order to stitch it together. And somebody to help train these models. Now, we'll get into those details, but can anyone tell me what that is? Chihuahua, right. Can anyone tell me what that is? Some sort of a muffin, right? Can anyone tell me where the muffins are? Yeah. Right, so it's hard for us, right? Well, and I really like that derpy one at the bottom, right? But imagine doing this with computers, especially with traditional AI, right? Think about the compute power. It's not easy, right? But it's possible. So this is where traditional AI sort of hit a speed bump or a limit, right? Is like you need data, lots and lots of data of muffins or eelgrass or whatever else that you're trying to train with that. And that took time. It was expensive, right? So what happened was in November 2022, you might remember your Thanksgiving, or maybe it was Christmas and New Year's, where the dinner table conversation around with the family was, oh, you ever heard of this ChatGPT, right? People were talking about cheating on tests, and then I talked to my teacher friends, and they were like, well, I use it to grade all the papers, so So there was a lot of buzz around that in the last in November 2022, and then over the last 2 years, it's just gotten crazy. And in fact, does anyone use this on a day-to-day basis? It's okay, you can admit it. I'll share some stats about where this is. But this was very helpful when it came to doing things for personal things, right? You're seeing all the different information that they put on their website to talk about how it gets used, and it's interesting to me that. This is stuff that, I don't know about you, but I found it eerie, right? It was delightful. It was a combination of delightful and then eerie. Like why is this so good at having conversations? It literally was like, it just feels so weird when you're having a conversation and it feels just like a person was there. But then we sort of got into those areas where it's like, wait a minute, was that true? The answer that it just gave me. Right? Wait, that's not how many R's there are in a strawberry, the word strawberry, right? Or that's Tom Cruise's mom is actually, so-and-so, right? So it was like, why is it making all these answers up? And we found out that it was actually, I'll go back. It was a combination of a lot of things that when you use the original versions of this, they were set up to be like, hey, be as helpful as possible. Right? It never had rules in it that said, if you don't know, say, I don't know, right? It never said, I don't know. It just came up with the ideas or generated the answers. So we found out, hey, let's make this better. And, more about why does it work so well is it took a bunch of different models, that traditional AI, and instead of doing them one by one, a very expensive process to train each one, like, is this a category of spam? Is it not spam? Is this a complaint? Is it not a complaint? How does this customer feel about that interaction? Each one of those was a little AI model. And instead what they did was they put it all into one foundational model. If you've ever heard the term foundational model or large language model, right? That's what they did, is they put it all into one. And it's interesting that once it has more context, it gets better at what it does. And in fact, it's foundational, and it is very much like we train our children. I mentioned my 22-year-old, my 24-year-old children. I hope they listen during class, but this is the idea. It's like now that they're hitting the real world, the professional world, then they can take that foundational knowledge and get into that specialization, right? I mean, how often do we refer, we have some engineers in the room, so maybe you do use your algebra, I don't. But this is, taking that foundational knowledge and applying it to that particular topic. And we found when we did that, now we're almost to real world here, or to current time, right? We found out that instead of having it be this generic thing that just created all sorts of answers, we can get very specific, right? We say, hey, look, take all that linguistic, amazing capability and look at just this body of knowledge. And then tell me what you think, right? Ignore all the other things that just focus on this body of knowledge. And that's what we did over here at, let's see if this works. Okay, over at New York City, right? So their mayor, Mayor Adams, was very intent on saying, hey, look, if you want to start a business, it takes 8 different agencies that you have to talk to, right? There's food service permits, there's DOT permits to get parking, there's so many other things. Can we bring that all together using this AI capability? And this is just, if you were to go to chat.nyc.gov, don't right now, I want you to focus. But this is where you can see what they did with this data. And of course, the mayor wants to do this not just for small business, right? There was impact in small business administration, but there's so many more opportunities for all city services. So that's, I have to remember to slow down. I get too excited. It's exciting to me though, because as a person who used to be in front of my government, my constituencies, right, to be able to provide a no wrong door to when you knock on government's door, it says, you don't have to know about my structure of 26 different departments, you can just ask, right? Just ask. And so that's sort of that first wave of where we are now today, right? Taking the past traditional AI, which by the way, still very helpful. It's much less expensive to use traditional AI models to look for eelgrass than it is to do these kind of very innovative type things. But that said, it helps sort of open up the door to that next thing. If you can't read it, it says, I need some data on LAX to assess EV charging opportunities. How many passengers fly in and out daily and how many parking spaces are there? Because I want to put EV chargers in LAX airport, right? And so this new thing goes out there, it says, does some research on the web, and then comes back with the answer. There's so many passengers, there's so many things. You press another button, and now you're sharing this not in copy and paste, like, hey, this is what ChatGPT told me, and then somebody else says, well, no, it told me something else, and we're bringing that all to the table. Instead, it allows us to bring that and share that with the team, and then the team can go in here and start creating, right? It says, hey, what was our RFP like last year? When we looked for this, or RFQ, like refer to that RFQ, build a table, and let's go make an RFP that's asking for these chargers in my airport. Right. So now instead of it being out of band, like kind of this thing where I'm going, I call it swivel chair. You ever heard of swivel chair? That term? You're swiveling your chair from this system, and then you're swiveling over to this system. Right. It's now integrated into just making the Teams chat. Right. And so that's what you're seeing here is just what the future of this is going to be. I have to say, disclaimer, it's not quite ready in many government agencies, but soon to be there. I'm excited, though, because this shows me that it takes it from being a niche, cute little cheap GPT chatbot and into something that might be able to help my workforce, right? Think about having an assistant for every employee in your organization, right? I call it force multiplying. Like instead of having to, have the world's best researcher, have to pay that type of staff member, now you have that for everyone. So this is my favorite one. I am not great at writing Excel formulas. But with this, now I can just say there, hey, oops, can you please create a formula that forecasts how many whatever I need? This stuff used to take, quants, people that analytics to be able to bring on board. And now I can start to use 25 years or however many years of data that you're storing for your public works or for your agencies and say, hey, what does the next 5 look like? Is there any seasonality and so on? Can you help me press play on that one if you don't mind? Or trust that it's going to do it? Okay, no worries. I'm going to move forward to this one. Anybody ever been double booked? I'm sure that doesn't happen. Yeah. So what I'm focusing on is this one allows you to look at all the recap of the meeting, look at all the transcript, look at what people were chatting about, and say, hey, get me up to speed. Summarize this meeting. Was I mentioned in it? Do I need to do any tasks out of it because I missed it? Right. Because that inevitably happens all the time when I'm out. It's like, okay, let's give it to Michael. So, but this one is, I think all these things that I've shared so far, hopefully can show you what productivity gains you can get from using AI, right? Beyond just it being a cute tool. And now it could hopefully save you 1.5 hours per month or per week. I forget what the stat is, but that's what the goal is to do, okay? So now we have the productivity side covered, okay, where AI can help you with that, and adopting things that we're putting into the tools or your vendors are putting into the tools. I saw one recently where, anybody from law enforcement here? Okay, good. So there's a body camera company. I won't name them, but they take transcription or they take video of all the engagements, and then the officer, the deputy, whoever it is, has to go back, write up reports, maybe refer back to that video, and so on. So this company that went in and used this AI to basically build a thing that takes all the transcription of all the video and writes the frame of the report. It's called draft one, the first draft of the report. And then the officer and the deputy have to just put in the details for that. This one usually gets the compliance or the privacy officers very wary, and you should be wary, right? Because we have to ask those questions about, is this safe? Is this something, I'm gonna get into the ethical and responsible side of it, but I think we should absolutely, I'm putting my other hat on now, my Snohomish County hat on. We should absolutely ask the question about, is this the right thing to do? All right? But at the same time, can that officer now get back home to dinner because they finished their reports in time? They filled in the details, but now they're there. I know that's not exact, it's infrastructure adjacent, but it's important to think about, well, that the responsible use of this AI compared to what the benefits that we can get from it, okay? So anyway, there's gonna be adoption of these AI capabilities that are gonna be built into the products and services that you buy. And then there's this place of unique builds. New Jersey recently put together all their procurement rules, all the rules about being a government employee into one big bucket, and now 65,000 employees of their state can have their own private GPT to ask questions. When I started in government, I asked maybe 10 questions, and then the 11th one I felt stupid to ask again, or maybe a repeat question. This no longer, it no longer limits the amount of questions you can ask about how to do government, right? So we're hoping to then have all the folks in that silver tsunami, folks that are retiring from government, contribute to this knowledge base so that new folks that are coming off of college or academia or wherever joining government, they can get up to speed and ask those questions. And especially over the last 3 years when we're not shadowing as much, doing job shadowing, can be able to tap into their knowledge base that applies to them, right? Because I'm sure New Jersey law is not the same as it is in Oregon. So you have that sort of thing. Anyone from ports? Is there a port representative? Okay. This one was very interested. I had no idea that ports were maybe less interested about, well, I don't want to say it this way, but very interested about the retail organizations that are within their port agencies, right? It's almost like a retail organization. That's what Sydney allowed him to do, is be able to use it to enhance those customer experiences that are walking through the ports by being able to ask any question. This one, help you pay bills. Anyone from an energy, public utility side of things in the room? Okay. How do I pay a bill? What's compare my rates? Help me with a rate comparison, and to be able to ask, like, what your account number is. Let me go look that up and take that next step beyond just being a high-level chatbot. Can you tell I get excited by all these use cases? I'm hoping that you're seeing it too, that there's ways that, if your only interaction with AI has been ChatGPT or any of the others, know that you can absolutely take that pattern and apply it to your own use cases. And so far what's been cute is that it's chat experiences, right? It's things that are taking data that's locked up in your documents, in your websites, and liberating it. I like to say it as liberating it and making it available to your residents, to your customers, to make that available, and to your internal employees. That's a good idea with the water, Greg, thank you. So what about when you go beyond that chat experience? How can we use the really good language models to help us out otherwise? This particular one I cannot share the name of yet. A lot of these are new, and they haven't given us the full green light to share those stories as far as their names. I can share the stories, I just can't share their names yet, because I think they want a little bit of a liability, thing like, If in case it fails, then they don't have to take the blame for it. But I love that they're doing some of this stuff on the cutting edge. This particular one says, hey, take all the calls that my call center gets and find out the sentiment analysis. How did that call go? How did that customer feel at the end of it? Has anyone ever gone into ChatGPT and said, hey, write me a story and sound like a pirate? Or, write me a poem, right? That's because it has that capability to figure out different perspectives. Well, tell me what this caller interaction was like and whether or not that was a positive sentiment, negative sentiment, and also, more controversy, who was the call center agent that took that call and is not could use some training? And that's what this is a contact center thing. I can share that Washington Department of Licensing is doing this for all of their sentiment analysis. They do customer surveys about the licenses, the tests that they give. I mean, this is the traditional one that makes it into, I don't know, some Family Guy or Simpsons episode, right? About someone standing in line at the DMV, right? And so they get quite a bit of sentiment or quite a bit of feedback. Well, this allows them to actually act on that feedback and score it quickly. Instead of having to read through each one of them, be able to look at the aggregate score and determine, I think this particular branch could use some assistance in getting better at responding to customers. I am so excited with that applying those language things beyond chat experiences and into the next phase of things. Speaking of next phases, it's going beyond language. Remember the eelgrass story that I shared earlier with images? So now these large language models can deal with multimodal, they call it. If you ever heard of multimodal, it means they can deal with multiple modes of things, in this case, images. So as we asked it, hey, what's going on in this image? If you can't read that, it says, the image is a building being flooded with water. It appears to be a severe situation that could potentially damage property and pose risk to safety. It's a current ongoing situation to be appropriate for the authorities to ensure safety of the people in the area and necessary measures to mitigate damage. We asked it, where is it coming from? I love it because it didn't try to make up some answer, right? I'm unable to provide real-time information or analysis as I don't have that capability. However, based on the context, it appears to be a flood situation where water is entering a building, right? Again, the eelgrass thing, that took months, and it was expensive to build. This was now a model that I can just upload a picture to. Has anybody downloaded that app and you can take pictures? And by the way, it's really good at math now. So I use it all the time for my math. But you take a picture of the math problem, it gives you the answer. In this case, you take a picture of a situation and it gives you the reasoning over what it sees. And so think about all those situations where you might be scanning, pictures of the field. I talked to, I'll talk about SPU, Seattle Public Utilities, in a minute, but it's helpful when you have context. Can anybody tell me what that says? Just shout it out. Have you been to my presentations before? Okay, well, it says, this thing says it's could be it's handwritten, it could be a signature, it might be Mark, something similar. The rest of it's blocked out, right? And then you give it a little bit more, and I'm sure now you know, right? That's got to be milk because that says steak, right? It says milk, steak. It appears to be a part of a shopping list or a list of ingredients needed for a recipe, as it lists food items. The other parts of the list are not visible. We give it the rest of it. Extract all the text from the image. Explain what you think this is. All right, eggs, milk, steak, mayo. It appears to be handwritten shopping list. The note on the beer item, not full fridge, suggests a reminder or emphasis of moderation or limiting the purchase quantity. All right, so the more context, the more it can reason, and the more you wonder, like, why is this so good at this? Right? I don't know. I have this internal turmoil about this would be great if I could put this in my workplace and to have it help me determine what's good, what's bad, what needs help. But then I also, in the back of my mind, keep it in the back of your minds too, like how is it doing it, and how do I make sure that it's safe? This one is hey, I'm going to give you a couple images. This is a good one. The rest of them, I want you to say whether or not they are good also. And so it says, hey, 1's defective. It's got noticeable wear. 2's not defective, looks to be good. 3 is defective, 4 is defective. right? So take that concept and now apply it to, anybody know what that is? Yeah. Is there any representative from NASCO here? No? Okay. They're the folks that, create, I think it's PACP. It's like the certification of labeling pipes and the health of those pipes, assessment of that pipe. And so this is just what that looks like for any public utilities that in Seattle, what they do is they scan, I don't know, a quarter of the city every year, and then they go back and someone is certifying whether or not it's healthy, whether it's not. If it's not healthy, what are the conditions? Is it a crack? There's like multiple criteria of the health of a pipe, which then give them the idea about forecasting what they need to invest budget-wise into pipe replacement for the year. So what we're doing with them right now is taking, you saw the stuff I showed earlier, have that automatically go through and not quite score it based off of it yet, right? Because we want this to be not autonomous, but a helpful feedback tool to let those folks know that go in there and see they're doing that right now. They're putting remarks, they're putting the content there to help score. This is what the computer scored, this is what you scored, here's some room for where you got it right, here's some room for improvement. Right? But think about, again, thousands of hours of video that they're able to go through and turn their efforts into, say, more valuable activities. All right. Okay, before I show that one, anybody, I can't see, it's very bright spotlight, don't turn it down, but has anyone got inspired to do this type of stuff in their agencies yet? No? Okay, I see some nods. That's my goal today, is to share with you what's happening, the state of AI, hopefully inspire you into using it, because I think if you're like me in government and technology, there's this space where I feel like this is going to be the time for government to really shine as a vertical. Look, if I was talking to Coca-Cola or Dell or Nike down the street, right, it'd be a handful of use cases that they could use this for. Really, it's about how do I sell more of this product, right? But think about it in government, like all the language that we have in our legislation, all the language we have in our safety protocols, our policies, that's so much in terms of words that these type of AI can help liberate, can help pour through. That I think it's going to be where this AI really shines. Right? We got to get it right. Again, I'll get to the safety side of it, but this is where I think there's opportunity to really transform. And I know I'm pushing the envelope about, I just want to keep the lights on, right? I got just enough to do, these things that I've set out to do. But I hope that we're going to in there in the back of your minds thinking, but you know what? If you run into a situation and say, that's right, there's a thing for that. There's an AI capability, or maybe just ask the question, is there an AI that can take care of this? And so that's where I challenge us, sort of as you go through this day and through the rest of the year, just like how do I make this happen? This one right here, can anyone tell me? It says historical footage of California during the gold rush. Can anyone name the videographer for this particular set of video? That's right, because this is 1849 or whatever, right? There is no video, right? But how did it generate this? Have you ever heard the term generative AI? This is now future stuff, okay? This is not where we are. This is still in development. But we gave the AI a prompt and said, create historical footage of California during the gold rush, and it generated it based off of, pictures and things like that. The application of this, I think, could be in city planning, urban planning, just any sort of planning that says, hey, what would this look like if it had 3 trees? Or if it had infrastructure underneath it, because it's not limited to video like this. This is also of a landscape. If you go out to look for Sora, S-O-R-A, it's the name of this technology from OpenAI, right? It can generate whatever. You cannot do this yet. There are quite a few safety protocols that we're going through, especially in an election year, right, to prevent this type of stuff from being used inappropriately. But the capability is there. So think about using that in your planning activities for the year, for the biennium, for whatever period of time, to be able to visualize it. Anybody ever done a remodel at home? Yeah. I tell you, we're going through planning. This is phase 0 of a 20-year-old project. Speaking of infrastructure, my house, I can't wait. We're waiting to get 3-pronged outlets in my house. I hear that's amazing. My house is built in 1909. It's been in my wife's family forever, and so that's why she's got so much emotional connection to it. I can't wait for 3 prongs. Anyway, it's got lots of character. So, has anyone ever done a remodel where they're able to render, right, what it's going to look like? It's the reason why it's still phase 0 is we've gone through so many folks, and this is going to be on video, so I'm not going to say anything more, but like it's very helpful to get a better picture about what you're going to have. And so this, I think at the house level, we have CAD, we have architecture. This could maybe do this at a larger level. I've actually seen video of someone recreating the entire Manhattan landscape, like all the buildings, all the infrastructure, everything else, using AI and a video game engine called Unreal. So it is unreal, like where we are right now. And it might be some time before it becomes ready for use in government again. Got to go through some checkpoints. But I will say this though, we've done some scanning on what it takes, what's going on in more trends. So this was 31,000 employees or people across 31 countries. This is a LinkedIn and a Microsoft study. We found out that there's quite a bit of AI already being used at work, right? So the stat is 75% already using, 46% just 6 months ago. So it's new, right? It's not like it's been established, but just to give you some perspective onto how AI is being used in the workplace. And this is, across all industries, but it's very helpful to know. It's also helpful to know that I thought maybe that was just all the new folks that were coming in from academia, but it's actually across the board, demographically speaking. I actually don't know where, I'm from the 1900s myself, so I don't know where I fit on that chart, but it is interesting, right? So if you are, already doing this, hooray. If you're not, please consider thinking about these types of use cases for work because it is definitely happening. Anyone know where this is from? Shout it out if you know the movie. iRobot. Does anybody remember the scene? Yeah. This is the setup is that he's looking for some evidence in this house, but someone or something doesn't want him to find that evidence, and so this bot that was scheduled to demolish this thing autonomously the next morning suddenly does it right then and there, and it's this stuff. It's it's always great to see Will Smith flying through the air. It's also Terminator. It's the Matrix. There's a lot of media that says, AI. Is it really safe, right? What happens when it takes on a sentient, capability and just takes off on its own and does what it wants to do? Versus when say this is also, not AI powered. This is human powered. But I thought it was interesting to see some of these technology. I'm not affiliated with this company, but I thought it was interesting to see, what robots and autonomous capabilities. You'll see there's an operator behind this one. I thought it was just AI, hey, go demolish this wall. But, you're seeing the stats. It's like you could save quite a bit of time. Can you imagine, if we didn't, adopt backhoes or, mechanical, we've gone through this before. And so to take it to that next level of AI and autonomous, we've got lots of questions to ask, but imagine how much we can get done in a day. But it does require that we do this responsibly. So I can't speak for all there's about 3 or 4 companies that are capable of building, have the horsepower, compute power to build these types of AI. And so I'll speak on behalf of ours, and hopefully everyone else will also be doing this type of thing where we're doing this responsibly, right? There are other worldwide examples of where AI is helping with residents, finding the right program to go apply for, helping with environmental problems like with bees and boosting biodiversity, accessibility for listening to either ASL or getting translations on the fly of any language you want. Right? There's lots of promise behind it, but we can't do it without the trust. Right? So And that's the public trust for you, and it's also the trust of you using things from us or any of the other tech companies that maybe you don't already have trust for, right? So my point of bringing this up is that we want to make sure that you're using AI. We encourage you to use AI that's, takes care of these risks, right? I want to be very clear, like I'm acknowledging that those things that make up those answers, everything else, right? It does it. It actually does these things if you don't put the types of rules and jailbreaking and other things to make sure it doesn't. Also, we don't do this, and I suggest you don't either. Don't use it in these types of scenarios, right? So we actually, every project that goes through our AI, we evaluate it to determine whether or not it is a responsible use of the AI. And if it fits any of these categories, amongst many other things in the framework, evaluation framework, we do it or we don't do it, so on. And if you're interested in what that looks like, Greg, I know this is the only one that I think has my logo on it, but this is, we share how we do it. We learn quite a bit. Anybody ever use Tay? Ever heard of the Twitter bot that just went crazy in like 2007? Yeah, we learned our lesson on quite a few things. And so we've incorporated that in the way that we do things and published that on a report. And so you can absolutely use that, and we'll be making this slide deck available. But it's not just us, right? We were asking for support from folks like Governor Kotek and legislative bodies, from local, from state, from federal spaces. We've got proposals out there for other, legislative bodies to help us with regulatory help with this. We basically want to make sure that if anyone has the capability of building something like this, that they do it responsibly too, and that we're not opening ourselves up as this is infrastructure after all, right? Into something that could compromise our infrastructure. Because this is definitely a powerful tool, and I don't want to quote Spider-Man right now, so I'll move on from that. And then we also have to acknowledge that it goes to the back of my mind. I don't know if you hear it, my inner turmoil, right, about my supporting my 4,000 employees at Snohomish County and making sure that, as Governor Kotek talked about, it's creating those jobs. It's not taking them away. And so this is one of those things that we've also partnered up with AFL-CIO to make sure that if there are skills that shift from one place to another, that we are helping make that transition over. My mom was a data entry technician for UPS for like 30 years. She's really good at putting numbers into the computer. 10 key. Anybody remember 10 key, reverse key? Yeah, that's actually where I got my start. I tried to beat her with this, and I can't anymore with that pinky. But anyway, and I remember when Excel showed up, or some other data entry thing, and they offered her a golden handshake, right? I remember that day very, very clearly, and I also, like my kids. We've got kids. We've probably, we've got a next generation. I want to make sure that they have a future too. Right? So as I share these stories with you about what's possible and what's not, I want to make sure you're reserving a piece to make sure that we're doing this responsibly, okay? Not just from the technology perspective, but for our society, okay? And I'll leave you with this, that there's the journey, right, that this goes through. Hopefully this journey is inspired a little bit more by these use cases that I've shared, by some of the inspirational remarks. I'm not going to claim that they were, but hopefully someone in the room was inspired by something that I said that said, hey, we can really improve government. There's an opportunity here for government, for infrastructure, for really any vertical within our space that we work in. I'm sure I would really love for Pepsi to sell another bottle of Pepsi, don't get me wrong, but I really think that this stuff could help us in the space that we work in, and I'm passionate about that. It's been my lifelong journey, hopefully you've got some of that as well that you want to bring back to your organization. And so with that, I'll happy to connect with you all. I don't necessarily. Where's County of Lebanon? I saw their truck out in the parking lot. Where are they here? It's a city of Lebanon. Where is that? Like map-wise, north? Near Albany? Is there an In-N-Out there? No, not yet. Okay. There is? Good to know. Is that the one in Kaiser? Yeah. Good. You don't have to go all the way down to, thank you. Yeah, California anymore. But yeah, I really thank you for your time this morning. Looking forward to connecting with you all, either in LinkedIn or here at the conference. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing stories of really what's possible. I think it really sets the tone for today's programming throughout the day. So take that with you. Take some of these nuggets with you as we continue on throughout our breakout sessions. You've got a little bit of time. I'm sure you're going to grab Michael and ask a question that we didn't really have time for here, but he'll be with us, I think, a good part of the day today. And then take a moment to visit some of the sponsors that are out in the lobby. And with that, just for directional purposes, if you're looking for where are the breakout sessions, just go right out the doors to the right, past the front desk, and there's a bank of breakout rooms on the other side of the hotel. And then we'll be back in here for lunch for the infrastructure report card. And with that, have a great conference.